Hi guys, and welcome back to Freckle Finance, and today I'm going to do the video on how I negotiated and just the whole car buying process for buying my new car. First off, I just wanted to say sorry for not posting a video on Wednesday. I have been sick most of the week. I am still sick today, but I did not want to leave another day without a video, so I am filming it and it is going to be posted on time. So to jump right into the story, I will just start from the starting point. So essentially, I've always heard that Hondas were very good cars, and that's one of the reasons I leaned towards a Honda, but I wanted to make sure that I was making a good decision on Honda and not just simply trying to get a Honda because everyone says Honda is good. So I went on truecar.com and I started looking at prices, and I noticed that the Hyundai Elantra was a lot cheaper than the Honda Civic. I can't remember the exact difference it was initially, but it was a large difference, and I really wanted to make sure that if we got a car, it made the most sense long-term financially as well. For example, having a Honda which retains value really well might not necessarily be beneficial at all if we're going to drive the car into the ground. So I had always thought you should only be talking to dealers about one car. You should only be negotiating price on one specific car. But these guys don't work for the two different dealerships, so I figured, why not see what price they'll come up with for both the Honda Civic and the Elantra. I found all the dealerships in the area, which, funny enough, it doesn't show all the dealerships in the initial result, even when I went to Google Maps, but definitely look around, make sure you're getting all of the dealerships in the area that you are willing to commute to, and even some that you're not necessarily willing to commute to, because you can still potentially use that as bargaining on price. So the first round, I pretty much emailed them, said, hi, my husband and I are looking for this specific car. So for the Honda, it was the 2016 Honda Civic base. I even gave the color black, and I said with sensing. Now I will state this is not the car we ended up getting, but that's what I emailed them about. So be very, very specific, and that's the advice I saw online, was just to be extremely specific about which car, so it sounds like you know what you're talking about, and you should have a good idea of what you're talking about as well. I also mentioned that I would be emailing many other dealers, and so give me your best price. So they had no idea that I had a starting point from the price on TrueCar. As well, I do want to point out that when I looked online, I found that TrueCar can have a decent price, that you won't be completely ripped off, you're not going to pay MSRP, but that you can do better negotiating on your own, and I figured, why not? If the prices come out higher, I can just go use a TrueCar quote. Most of the dealerships got back to me pretty quickly and gave me a price, and some of them were so ridiculous. I think initially, especially with the Honda, there was already a $2,000 difference in the prices that I was given, which is crazy. From there, initially, I was going to email all of the rest of them stating, this is what I have, can you compete? But honestly, for both the Elantra and the Civic, there was one price that was significantly lower than the rest, and I thought that the dealers would just laugh at me with a price difference or whatnot, so I kind of just left it. We weren't in a rush to buy a car, although it was really annoying to use Uber. It wasn't worth like rushing and spending a lot of extra money on a car. So as one tip that I ended up using is go with the flow. So have a tactic that you're going to use, but if you think something else might end up working better, like waiting it out like I did, then go with that. So I waited for them to email me back. Some of them were saying that it would be better if they call me, and just from my own experience dealing with salespeople, I'm not very good on the spot on the phone like that, so I wanted to do it through email so I have time to process and think and respond, instead of kind of being convinced into something and then feeling bad about taking it back later. Even though it's perfectly fine, you're buying a car, it's expensive, it's okay to take it back. I just didn't want to put myself in that situation because I get really, really awkward, and so I did whatever I could to maintain everything over email so that I couldn't be convinced. And not that all car salesmen are bad. In fact, pretty much everyone I dealt with through Honda franchises were all really great. I never felt pushed into anything. My experience with Hyundai was different, but just note that I'm not saying all car salesmen are extremely pushy or anything like that, because that has not been the case for me. So funny enough, there was one dealership which I had totally not realize that I missed emailing, but they had called me back because I had accidentally sent out my quote through TrueCar, and they called me back. It was like 2 weeks after the initial one, and I said, yes, I'm looking for a car still. However, I've switched from that one. I was just kind of in the beginning processes of looking, and I accidentally clicked the button, and I told them that, and I said, but I just want to let you know, I'm getting quotes from a lot of other dealerships. So this was over the phone. I don't normally pick up the phone for these types of situations, but I guess I got caught off guard. I think I was waiting for an Uber, and I thought that it might have been the Uber calling me. So she said that she would get back to me and she would let me know. And honestly, it was like the best quote I got. And afterwards, I was emailing other Honda dealerships, and they would only come to that price. Nobody would go lower. No one would add any extras. Like literally that was the lowest price, and most of them wouldn't even, most of them are like, no, you know what, good luck, you got a great deal. So I knew that at that point I probably had a really good price on the Honda. For the Hyundai, and I just want to state that I don't think that this experience is necessarily going to be true of all Hyundai dealerships. This is just what ended up happening for me in the area that I live in. So I tried to use the same tactic on the Hyundai dealership, and it didn't work out because they basically gave me a fake quote. And funny enough, the person who admitted to giving me a fake quote didn't realize that his coworker had actually given me a fake quote. Essentially, it was like a quote he couldn't honor, or it was something like, you must have misunderstood what is actually included, even though I was extremely clear in the email. So at this point, I was kind of frustrated with dealing with Hyundai. So I went to the next dealership, the next lowest price, which was significantly higher, which, I mean, I should have seen it coming that probably the one price for the Elantra was too good to be true. However, I was like, I'll go with it. I mean, this is the price they're giving me. I'm being very straightforward with what I want here. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. Around that time was the time I wanted to test drive the car. So yes, at this point I had not test driven either car. I wanted to get prices in. I didn't want to go in there and have them talk to me about prices at that point. I wanted it mostly sorted out. I wanted it to appear to them that I already knew for sure which car I was getting, and I just wanted to test drive the car that I was getting specifically. So first we went to the Honda dealership and I drove the car, and I really liked the way the car drove, but the base model just doesn't have a lot of stuff in it, I guess. And I'm like, it's just a car, like this is a lot of money, there's not really a lot of stuff. And the Honda sensing aspect was not really what we thought it was, and so we weren't like super impressed, although I still thought it was cool, but we weren't really super impressed with it. And I was like, oh no, I negotiated the price based on this, and like it's something that they're not even going to, like it's something that we don't even want now, or possibly don't want. So let's go check out the Hyundai dealership. Let's go there. I had already prearranged making these appointments and everything. So we spent $25 Ubering pretty far to the Hyundai dealership that gave me the best price, and we test drove the car, and I didn't think it drove as smoothly, but it had a lot of other features in it. We were basically ready to buy this car. Now, we didn't have the cash right on us then, but we were willing to go to the bank, get the money out, and pay them. So we sit down, we're talking, and he's basically like, oh, well, you're not a previous Hyundai owner, so you actually don't get that. And also, you're not going to be financing, so you also don't get this fee. And suddenly the car was like $1,200 more, and I'm like, this is not what I thought. Now, to be fair, he possibly did send me this quote. I don't recall ever reading the very detailed quote. I had asked him afterwards what it was, what the price was, and he said, oh, it's this price. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great. And in my opinion, I was like, I don't know that I like the Hyundai that much better, the Elantra that much better, that like this $2,500 price difference now. And I was all confused. And then I said, like, what's the real, like, give me the real price with tax. Like, just give me the real price. Don't give me quotes that have no effect on me at all, that aren't valid. So he comes back and gives me a quote, and he's like, here's the price. And there was $5,000 of additional warranty included. And so this only added, I think, 4 more years onto the warranty or something like that, or only certain warranties. He had like 2 warranties added. And I said, I don't really want to buy $5,000 of warranty, and I don't want to buy a car that's going to have $5,000 in issues within the first 10 years of its life, essentially. So he was kind of irritated at me. He was asking, why don't you want warranty? And I was explaining, and he didn't particularly like my answer. As well, he kept saying, you know, it can be cheaper, you can finance. And I kept telling him, we don't want to finance. And also, we're here on a visa. We are not, you know, permanent people here. We have no credit here. And just overall, he was really, really pushing us to finance, even though I kept saying, like, I don't want to finance. So basically, we said, give us $1,000 off the price or we're leaving. And he said that he couldn't do anything more for us. And we said, okay, we're sorry, I understand there was like a misunderstanding in the price of the car. We're not mad at you, but like we need to go back and reassess because we had assumed that the car was a different price. So I was pretty frustrated because I don't like when people try to make me feel bad or guilt me or scare me into getting things like warranty or convince me to get financing. I was very clear the whole time that I was not interested in financing, and I was just uncomfortable with the whole situation, and that was the better of the Hyundai dealership that I dealt with, essentially. So I'm like, do we want to think about it more, or do we want to get a Honda? And my husband looks at me and he's like, can we consider the possibility of getting the next trim of the Honda, which is the EX, because we were looking at the base. And I looked up the price difference online, and I'm like, you know what, let's go back to that dealership and let's test drive it and see how we feel, see if we're more comfortable with it. So before we went back, we did stop at the bank and we did get a cashier's check for the price that we agreed on for the base Honda Civic. I looked up the price difference, and he had told me how much we were allowed to pay on either debit or credit card, and I knew that the price difference, like, we wouldn't agree to it if it was more than the debit credit card amount that we were allowed to do. So I figured if we wanted to finish this transaction that day, fine. Before we left with the check, we talked and made sure that like we would be able to return this check and deposit it back in our account if everything went badly. And as well, it didn't cost us anything, or our credit union didn't charge us anything for the cashier's check. So we didn't really feel like there was that much of a loss. As well, we had to go to the bank for other reasons anyways, so stopping at the bank also wasn't like a waste of Uber money or anything like that. So we arrived back in the Honda dealership, and you could just see the sales guy look so excited because we said if we come back, we're buying a car. And I'm like, so we want to look at the EX with sensing. And he said that they didn't have any models on the lot, and we're only looking at 2016, so they're not getting any new ones that were EX and sensing, but they did have EX without sensing. And me and my husband had already talked, and I said, like, if that came down to it, I would still want to look at the EX and potentially get rid of the sensing. So we test drove it, and we loved it so much more. The price difference became, again, the initial difference between the Honda and the Elantra that we were looking at. But the tech was worth it for us. It ended up being $1,100 more that we paid, although it only shows as $600 more online. I'm thinking, how am I last minute gonna negotiate to make sure that they don't try to oversell us on this price? So we drive it, they knew we liked it, which I feel like put us at a bit of a disadvantage. But he did go back, and he came back and he was like, here, this is $1,500 more. And I already had the car models pulled up on my phone, and I'm like, the MSRP is only showing $600 difference. What is this? And my husband will say that I had a look on my face like I'm about to walk out of here because I am not paying that difference. And immediately the salesman went to the back, he came back, and it was $350 cheaper. And so I kind of was still like, I don't know, like this is only supposed to be a $600 difference. Now it's $1,100. It was $1,150 at this point. And I'm just like, I don't know. And then my husband said, you know, can you give us a minute to talk about it? And I tried to keep that look on my face. I wanted to see, is there any more movement? They knew we had cash. They knew that that car could come off the lot tonight. And I was hoping that that would have some leverage, and possibly it did, which is why he didn't want us to walk, because he knew we had the cash on us now to buy it. He didn't come down anymore. I waited probably like 10 minutes looking like, I don't know. And we ultimately just talked about it, and we felt it wasn't worth the time to go back to possibly save a little bit more. And the reason that we feel we could only save a little bit more is that the car that we were initially looking at is not the most popular car to sell. A lot of people don't like buying the base, and the car had been on the lot for a long time. We saw the dates that the cars became on the lot, and that one had been on the lot for a long time, whereas the ones I was looking at was a newer one. So when he said that the reason it was so much cheaper for that one was because that it was a car that's been sitting on the lot for almost a year, I did believe him, and so we figured we could probably still get a lower price, but are we gonna go back home, start this negotiation all over again to maybe just save $200 or so, or maybe nothing? So we didn't feel it was worth it, so we went for it and we bought it that night. Funny enough though, when they drew up the paperwork, it was $50 less than we had agreed on, and they're like, they said that they just didn't want to deal with redoing the paperwork, so it ended up only coming out to $1,100 more, which made me feel a little bit better. And I almost wonder if that was part of their plan. Give me just a little bit more at the end. So the Honda finance manager did still attempt to sell us warranty, but not as the extreme that the Hyundai dealer did. He was basically, I think it was $1,700 that he was going to sell us for, and it was going to be a 4-year difference. I felt like I'm buying a Honda because it's not supposed to really break down. So to extend the warranty up to 7 years, I just didn't think that there should be $2,000 in like extra damages. So obviously these warranties don't cover maintenance. He did recommend that he would do 2 years of oil change, and that's really a pretty minuscule additional amount of money. And I was really tired, so I feel like I almost wanted to just get out of there, but I asked, are we allowed to think about it overnight and come back to you? And he said yes. He looked really reluctant to say yes, but he did. So we left and we looked it up and ultimately decided we were not going to buy the warranty. I will say, I don't think I negotiated 100% perfectly. There's definitely room for improvement, but I still think that I did a really good job. And I came home and I'm like, oh man, like I still was upset about this like $500 difference between what I thought the price should have been and what they actually charge us. But I did check the true car value again, and we paid about $2,000 less, all inclusive with taxes and everything, than the value that it was showing there if we had added taxes and all the other fees. So, I mean, if I got $2,000 under the price, I obviously didn't get a bad deal, but just, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I can never be happy with the price because I'm pretty much always uncomfortable with spending money, especially large amounts. And maybe that has actually helped me in negotiating. So if you're someone watching and looking to buy a car or anything expensive in the near future, I hope that my story will help you in the future with negotiating. You can learn from my mistakes of not knowing exactly what I wanted when I went in there. But like I said, I still think I did a really good job. And if you're not looking to buy a car, I hope it was amusing and you kind of got to go through the emotions and kind of some of the stress that happens when you're buying something very expensive. As well, if you're new to this channel, click that subscribe button below. I post lifestyle, finance, and financial independence related videos, as well as give it a thumbs up for doing a good job buying a car. I will talk to you all again soon, and remember that no matter what your financial situation is, make sure to have a great day. Bye.